Welcome back to Sinews of War. In the previous episode, Costa was marching against the Persians and had to face them in battle. Proved to be quite easy thanks to the enemy's terrible tactics and our heavy cavalry advantage. At Santa Fe, Calambo was able to finish off the new Spanish, destroying the entire faction and finally meaning that America is actually at peace. Then the Maratha Confederacy declared war on us, so we've got new battlefronts opening up in India, but before that we had to deal with Poland in Europe. They were sallying against Gaiden's siege at their capital, and fortunately for us, it proved easy to defeat them thanks to the use of some unsportsmanlike corner camping and trenches to annihilate their troops mostly at range. Now the Maratha appeared with a large force and were able to take one of our settlements, so they've gained some early momentum in that war. Also in India, we were able to negotiate with Portugal in order to get Goa, one of our victory regions, an important piece of progress. Unfortunately, we learned that Costa had died of natural causes before finishing his march towards the next Persian territory, but now Courtland's going to come over from Baghdad to take over that campaign and help out. Now let's continue. Gentlemen, be informed that henceforth I shall be addressed as Lord Vermeers, by decree of the king. A productive trip to the capital it was, indeed. The king has a great many ideas, and to contradict some of my previous statements on the matter, a great many virtues. I have heard the full extent of his plan, not just the rumours we had to go on previously, and indeed there is something of a higher genius to it. To order the world by merit rather than by birth, it sounds like a dream of a hopeful prole, does it not? But be not afraid, for the measure of merit shall be wealth, and birth bequeaths wealth easily enough. The real outcome of it all is a consolidation of the lower orders to two classes, slaves and workers, distinguished by their pay and merits alone. Your common soldier will be equal to the local peasants, simply by virtue of being a man of the empire without royal commission. No man without commission shall be immune from enslavement, nor shall any man be overly exposed to it without legal reason. The degenerate segments of our people shall be thusly treated with the contempt they show for civilization. That is the sum of it, really nothing to worry about. Now there are various details to go over, and various objectives pertinent to this goal that we shall be pursuing. All I hope is that all of you will agree with my assessment of the Empire's future and see that its best hope is for us to do all we can to make the King's dream a reality. The Maratha Confederacy may have taken one of my regions, but I am going to try and do the same back to them by besieging their capital up here with the main force under Tibir, with a little reinforcement army coming up to tilt that balance of power in our favour. I'm actually just going to siege them out rather than assault, despite having the advantage, because I don't really want to be losing any men at this stage, and as I've said many times at this point of the campaign, there's no particular rush to actually take the settlements we don't need. Now Vermeers is going to go off as a task force of the king. Effectively, he's going to need some ships, and he's going to depart up there from near Riga. We'll have a look at what he does in the future. Also going to peel off ships from the main fleet to escort him, since having a whole army on a single ship probably ill-advised. Now the Native Americans are on the offensive. They can't quite reach me this turn, but they almost attack Upper Louisiana, so we're going to have to keep an eye on that. We've also got, as it turns out, a rebellion near Warsaw. Didn't expect that. The public order looks okay, so maybe the rebellion happening solved whatever the problem was. And unfortunately for these rebels, they've rebelled without realizing we have a massive army right there. So we just absolutely crushed them, and nothing comes of it. They should probably check whether we have an overwhelming advantage first. Now against Persia, Courtland is ready to step in and start besieging this settlement that initially Costa was going to besiege, and his army left over after his death and the battles to get here is going to come in to reinforce, and once again we'll just leave that place under siege. Now against the Iroquois, we need to work out what we're going to do basically. They've got this army, only half a stack, coming into Upper Louisiana, but the thing about Native American troops is, on high difficulty at the very least, they are superior to Western troops, so we won't be able to beat them even with the small force we have there. I actually could have just abandoned the territory, but I decided to leave my troops behind to see if they could do anything to the invaders, and in the meantime, we're going to bring up the main West India Company force which was stationed at Panama after the war against New Spain, and we can actually just ship them all the way up to Georgia to put them in North America, so from there they're going to be much more useful. And even if we weren't at war with Iroquois, we would need them up here just so we could have them for a potential conflict with the 13 colonies, because we do need to take New York, and we've seen before they won't sell it to us, so if it comes down to it there could be conflict here. So having our forces in the area useful, and Voorhees is just going to march straight towards the enemy's territory and basically attack them while they attack us rather than do defensive operations. Now they do indeed go for that settlement. The balance bar somewhat even, and I really should have just auto-resolved this, because there was probably a chance we would just win that battle on the auto-resolve, but the curiosity got the better of me and I decided to fight it myself, and it immediately went badly. This unit of dragoons got off and dismounted but facing the wrong way, so that didn't particularly help. I had to rush to get them into the line. Needed to use the dragoons in the line because the enemy had so many troops. We were going to get totally outflanked unless I put something there, but dragoons, absolutely terrible in melee and not all that good at range either, aren't going to be able to stop the enemy. They are being indecisive, which is helping. They could have already struck me, so they're giving me more time to fire at them, but not enough. The AI is, unfortunately for me, going to do something slightly competent, damned AI, by charging its troops into melee without waiting for too long. You can see I'm forming squares here. Someone a really long time ago told me in the comments that forming squares against attacks by Native American troops is somewhat useful, but I can't confirm it here because the square just disintegrates immediately on the enemy attack. They try to get back into a regular formation and the losses taken to the units are absolutely massive, so not really progressing at all. I've told the artillery to switch to canister shot, but so far not really doing anything. I thought maybe this close range canister shot would tear them apart, but we've seen before lots of times in the campaign that canister shot, possibly only in DarthMod, doesn't necessarily work because it shoots up into the air and just shoots above the target, so it doesn't actually hit things in front of it. And now they're going to face a huge charge as the main line falls back. That battle did not last very long at all, and very quickly the rest of the force routes. Got some militia surviving there, but they won't stick around. So the game generously calls it a close defeat, but we can see from the results that actually the enemy resoundingly defeated our forces. Definitely should have taken the auto-resolve. And now to add insult to injury, the Mughal Empire with their one region declares war on us, not going to bother with the allies, and they even actually have a stack that moves past our besieging force and could threaten us, and they besiege our trade. Well, he did say we're here to fight the resurgence of primitives, but there is a second message clear for all to see. The whole fleet came with us. Not going to need those ships for this, so clearly Lodovix wants the whole focus shifted back north. I would say he intends to attack the British colonies, but every time I met him, he only had good things to say about them. Better leave them there to fight the primitives and those French holdouts up north. That's got to be the thinking. It could be then that the fleet is here to protect against a rather different threat. Another fleet, most likely, sailing not out of any British port, but a Dutch one. When we return to Georgia, will we even be Dutch anymore? Can't tell with Lodovix. So let's take a look at that Mughal army sneaking by me there. It's just over half a stack, and the risk is that they could come in and actually take Hindustan, my victory region, away from me, since I've only got a couple of units there. I'm looking around trying to find anything I can reinforce it with, but really the only option is this small army that was going to reinforce De Beer. So now it's going to come back and be added to from the locals, so that will stop the Mughals from possibly taking it. They could still come and interfere with my siege of the Marathi, but since they hate the Marathi, they'll probably just leave them to it. So with that sorted, I'm hoping that will all be okay. Next, I need to continue my advance to take back the territory I lost to the Marathi. They've got half a stack, and it actually intercepts me, giving me the advantage, so kind of them. That army behind them isn't in reinforcement range, so I thought, okay, we'll just annihilate this half stack if it wants to die. But no, I didn't save on the auto-resolve, and the auto-resolve was absolutely abysmal. We lost basically the whole army, and the Marathi won the battle, so no idea what was supposed to have happened there. But now I need to immediately start replenishing this force, because it's going to be weak to counterattack by the Marathi, who could finish it off. So I'm going to recruit new troops nearby to send over and reinforce into that army, and then we'll have to once again attempt to march up that road and take back our lands, and hopefully this time we can be a bit more careful about it. Now I'm being more careful with this auto-resolve against the Persians that Courland has under siege. Luckily this time it goes fine. Now there's no particular need to be taking this territory, but an interesting thing about taking it is that we now have a continuous land empire from France to the southern tip of India. This territory unites the East India Company territory with the lands taken in the Middle East. So now we have one gigantic land empire to be ruling, and the army of course is going to have to be heading back into the East India Company territory, although technically all of this stuff to the west here can now become East India Company territory if Courland agrees. At the same time, I'm moving a rake into Afghanistan to find out what the Persians are up to there, and we actually discover a full stack that looks like it might be moving south, so it could actually come and take one of my territories here. We're going to have to race to get Costa's old stack back over there to stop them from doing that. They also have forces in Azerbaijan, not too many, but I thought I might as well defend against them anyway, so I'm going to start reinforcing Mesopotamia for that purpose. Now Vermes is ready to start moving. He's going to depart Riga. His ships can't actually get out of the European theatre this turn, but what I can do is move them into western France, where they'll be able to be reinforced with additional ships I can construct at those docks. Also the Prussian army is still here. You might remember that from way earlier in the series. I talked about a mysterious Prussian army sitting in western France, and it is still there. The AI hasn't thought of anything to do with it yet. Now as we moved on, this happened. Once again, Russia is back for another war with us, despite only very recently signing a peace treaty with us, so let's get this one started. We do have forces left over from the defeat of Poland-Lithuania, which will be able to take part in this war, but Russia have a lot of armies at their disposal, and they immediately send 3 stacks towards St. Petersburg. Not much we can do about that, only got half a stack there, and there's the nearby stack of Uwata defending against Sweden, which could possibly be peeled off, but I don't know if it will reach it in time. Overall, not a good situation with Russia, but let's move on. I noticed the Persian army didn't bother continuing its march south. It actually went north to stare off into the wilderness, so that suits me. But I did discover they have another full stack over at Kabul, so still lots of Persian armies around, but I'm sure all of them are very weak. The Mughal army didn't do anything over in India, so that helps me out a fair bit. Going to continue to expand my defences in Hindustan anyway, just in case. Now I'm moving up a stack from Central America to come and help out against the Iroquois. This is the stack that helped take out New Spain, and it's finally walked all the way back up to get towards this theatre, so soon it will be able to take part in that war. And at the same time, we've got Voorhees moving north. He is just going to strike right into enemy territory. We can't reach any settlements, but we can just sit in this town here and stare at the smaller force over there in the settlement and consider taking it on next turn. So now Vermes is going to be able to sail out since he's got extra ships and extra movement points added to his fleet. So off he goes to make his unannounced arrival in North America in the very near future. So we'll have to see how he does with his little mission over there. So in Russia's turn, 2 of their stacks from St. Petersburg actually move back, so that's a relief. Some of their troops look like they're moving towards Kiev once again. But 1 stack advances, and that's probably going to be enough by the looks of things. Plenty of artillery and high quality infantry, and our force inside has lots of militia. But it is Voss's militia, so a cut above the usual standard. Still, the enemy having the advantage on the balance bar. I thought this battle could very well be winnable. All I need is for the AI to do its usual shenanigans. One factor acting against me is actually the size of the fortifications. We don't have enough units by far to actually occupy all of the huge star fort defending the city. We can see some of Voss's militia actually outside there as the battle starts, because they're a really high level, which allows them to set up Fugas defences, which you can just about see here, basically like landmines. We'll see them in a second. So occupying the wall, we've got Farlock armed citizenry and the other squad of Voss's militia elsewhere. There's a squad of garrison line infantry, nothing special. The enemy, unfortunately for me, did not contract the services of the Dark Artillery Lord for this battle, and their 3 units of artillery just pounded one of my walls, already taking 20% damage there. So they're actually doing this right, and across the rest of the battlefield, units spreading out to attack the fort from different directions. Exactly what I didn't need to happen. At least we got the Fugas. It blasts some of their advancing Cossacks, and then a second volley falling down from the sky kills some more. Probably killed over 100 between 2 units there, so that was nice, weakening the enemy before they arrive. But even then, they've only got a unit of militia up on the wall to stop them, so they may get in, and most of the other Russian units aren't going to be contested at all, since we just don't have the whole fort defended. These men are easily going to breach the fort by climbing on the outer part of the fort and then rushing across the bridge into the middle. Not very helpful for me at all. All these troops coming here on the north side going to be totally uncontested. We don't have anything on the north side. We're so low on troops, so they're easily going to get multiple regiments breaching the fort. Plus, it looks like they're about to knock down part of the wall. I'm losing the citizenry to the wall falling apart. They're going to have to try and get out of there. Not good at all. So very rapidly, the units I do have are going to get caught into melee combat and will have to struggle against the overwhelming enemy numbers. Luckily, Voss's militia do not go down easily, and they start slaughtering the enemy line infantry as they come over the walls. But is that going to be enough? Wall's crumbling over there, sir. Good. Maybe they'll go waste their time trying to climb the rubble. Now stop looking that way and put your eyes on that damn bridge. Got 1,000 ice monkeys stumbling into the wrong part of town. We won't last long here, Captain. And you've lived good lives. Taken a good measure of the king's coin along the way. Let's see it out with courage, and a bit of wit if it isn't too much to ask. Sir, they've opened the gate. They're below us. Yeah, all gonna be over so quickly. No time for any heroics. Alright then, move aside, men. Let me show you how one fights to the death. The fighting on top of the wall must have caused the enemy to temporarily capture the gate, because a small squad of Cossacks gets inside the fort, shoots down a few militia and rushes in to attack my reserve cavalry. And they actually go right through them out the other side and even start the victory countdown. It will only tick down while they're on the point, so if we can keep them distracted fighting these cavalry, that will buy us the time we need there. But more and more enemies coming in, and with only those cavalry and Voss's other unit of militia inside the fort to defend against them, we could actually just lose the fight. On top of the wall, Voss's militia are doing okay, fighting pretty well against this massive wave of Russian troops coming over the top. But still plenty more to come, so they've got more work to do. Now I have 3 units of cavalry outside the fort, and it's about time I put them to work. One unit is going to charge off to attack this unit of enemy horse archers, which comes barreling out to engage in this combat. Absolutely no idea what the enemy stats are here. I just decided, let's see what happens. We need to do something with the cavalry. The other 2 units are going for the enemy's general, but he is going to elude me. Now the enemy's infantry climbing up the north wall captured that gate, and while the infantry didn't really do anything with that advantage, they sent in more cavalry to join this fight in the centre. Luckily, I just defeated the Cossacks who came in initially thanks to the help of the militia, so I was able to form up to receive them. Unfortunately, fewer and fewer allied troops remain on the main wall defending against the enemy's assault. Here you can see one of the units of regular militia almost wiped out by the attack of the Cossacks on foot. The good news is the enemy's artillery has been silenced. I had 1 unit of line infantry coming in as a reinforcement to the battle, and you can see them here. They took part in the cavalry fights as well. They lost half their men, but they managed to take out the artillery and allow us to win the cavalry fight. This one against the horse archers still going strong. They are apparently fairly decent in melee, so going to support them now. Our cav pretty much unable to get inside the fort now, since the enemy have captured all the gates, so not very useful to me, unfortunately. And now as the game starts to lag out for whatever reason, the last of that first unit of Voss's militia up on the wall are wiped out by the enemy's assault. They killed far more than they lost, but the enemy just had too many troops. That unit of reinforcement line infantry comes in to join the fight below the gate, but again they're going to be outnumbered. They won't be able to win out. And now the enemy on top of the wall can form up to shoot into the fort from there. And they killed half a unit of my cav, which is now rushing away. We basically can't go into that half of the fort anymore safely. On the capture point, I've got the remnants of an artillery crew, just 6 men defending the flag, the rest of them already defeated in melee, while Voss's other unit of militia is going to swarm into this building to take up a defensive position. From there they can fire on the capture point, so should be able to take out units challenging it, but they're not going to be able to do it very fast thanks to their low accuracy and reload speed. The enemy's general coming to have a look at what's going on there, but deciding to get out of the way rather than just get shot at point blank range. Probably the right decision from him. So now it's just a case of waiting for the enemy to stream all their infantry in, and indeed they did. This unit actually set up right in front of the building full of militia in order to try and battle with them at range. A terrible idea. They're going to slowly take casualties while we don't really take any at all. But the enemy eventually worked out they could just send units into melee inside the building, and that's going to give them an advantage. so we can't really see what's going on, so we're going to have to peek through the windows to try and work out how it's going. But overall it's going to go quite poorly just because our units are exhausted. They've already lost a decent number of their men, and the enemy have tons and tons of infantry to commit to this if they like. So they're just going to hold out now. It's a last stand for Voss's troops as the enemy's infantry work their way up the floors and start clearing each window one by one with melee attacks. My last ditch attempt was to use my last surviving unit of cavalry to attack this unit of enemy infantry to try and rout them, to clear some space around the building. You can see how many bodies are on the floor there. The militia absolutely destroyed almost the whole regiment. The cavalry attack brings them down to wavering, but unfortunately their morale started going straight back up afterwards, so we didn't make any progress there. So now the battle just drags on to a close as the last combats inside the building take place and the militia are finished off. So that was quite a surprising battle in some ways, because I pretty much expected the AI to throw that one away and I'd gain a victory even with only a few troops. But they seemed to do everything right. They did all the correct things they could do, attacking undefended positions, using their cannons to take out walls, attacking with cavalry while my units were still on the walls. And although they didn't do very well capturing the actual point, so they could have ended the battle faster, they tried. And you can see there Voss's militia getting absolutely loads of kills, but it was not enough. As long as I have your assurances that they will obey us, then that is no matter. In fact, better to have it under Russian rule, for then the people will receive the new order from their own state, not some easy to demonize invader. But make sure you let Peter know that if he marches any further, then he shall have to be declared an enemy of the new empire, and the new empire will have 10 times the military capacity of the old. Well, I'm sure he's aware of that already. Now, Lord Vermins has taken our army to America to conclude business with the 13 colonies by any and all means. The EIC awaits my command to establish the new laws. I think we shall be toasting our victory within the year, gentlemen. So with that defeat, St. Petersburg is going to be occupied by Russia. Luckily they didn't do anything else with the turn. They have so many armies around Moscow, but they don't have any plans right now, so that's going to help us out quite a bit, since they could come and storm other places too. Now the Maratha Confederacy force that we had under siege sallied against Tibir, but the balance bar, although looking even, I thought was lying, because you can see the enemy's force is depleted, its regiments are all under strength, and I thought this isn't really a balanced engagement. We'd probably just annihilate them. So in the end, what I decided to do is, rather than taking up time by fighting this large battle, which would probably be a walkover, I'm going to see what the auto-resolve says would happen in this situation, because the auto-resolve result and the balance bar do not always match up, and indeed we absolutely crush them in a resounding victory. So that's what I expected there, so thank you very much to the auto-resolve for providing that. Now regarding the Russians at St. Petersburg, there is a risk that they can move out from there and take Riga or even Lithuania and Belarus, so we need to arm up in the area. And you can see I finally unlocked light infantry at this very late stage in the game. No idea if we'll even get to see them fight, but we'll start recruiting some so we have some on the front lines. Now, back over at the Marathi situation, I decided to finish them off with an auto-resolve, so there they go. That's not their last region, they still have 2 over to the east, but I think that was their most valuable region, and it basically secures our borders in northwestern India sufficiently that we can start redistributing our armies. The first thing we need to do is take out the small Mughal army that's walked into our territory, so I'm bringing the army I've recruited out of Hindustan to do that. Balance bar in our favour. I thought it actually was realistically even more in our favour, but no, apparently not. This time, auto-resolve betrays me. It's a massive defeat with our entire army basically lost to the enemy force, so I thought, well, fine, I'm not going to tolerate that, I'll have to just do it myself. So the enemy just moved up with archers and melee infantry, not even using their ranged advantage, they're just getting shot down by me, and all the units that were isolated around the battlefield could just be smashed by cavalry, helped out by the fact I have cavalry coming in as reinforcements who took out the enemy's cavalry right away, can now come in to rear attack things. So basically just going to walk over the enemy in this situation here, right in the center of the battlefield. Mass routes start to occur as our guns start firing, and now they're mass routing into my cavalry blobs, and the only difficulty here is picking which unit to kill first, because we want to make sure none of them come back from routing. So we'll do our best to kill all the enemy in a timely fashion basically. The only unit we potentially could have any trouble with is the elephant sitting in the centre here. Don't want to let them get too close to our line, so I just pounded them with artillery. My artillery were just missing and generally not doing the amount of damage I expected, and when I went to take a look I realised it's because this reserve unit standing right in front of them is probably blocking all of their line of sight. So I get them out the way, retask the artillery to blast those elephants, and now there's going to be 3 regiments of guns firing at them, and they immediately say nope, we're not going to stay for this, and shatter. So that brings the battle to an end without really having to deal with the elephants. It's a heroic victory, so we've reversed there the result of the auto resolve. Gonna lose a couple of hundred men, killing a couple of thousand, much more like what I would have expected from that matchup of armies. So that's the Mughal army defeated, and we can now start thinking about going to take their last settlement up there in the north. But these forces are not going to use for that. The smaller one is going to pursue the Mughal army, and now the larger one is actually going to switch over to fight in eastern India, where they can join the war against the remnants of the Maratha Confederacy, and they're going to join up with the troops who will be coming from the south once I've refitted that army that got defeated by an auto-resolve earlier. So now, switching over to Europe once again, we need to do something about the threat from Russia, and Gaiden is in a perfect position to do that. He was able to move out of Warsaw, public order being okay. So his mission is basically going to be to go towards St. Petersburg and attempt to retake it, and along the way he can pick up more forces, such as these ones being recruited in Lithuania, so he should be able to get about 1.5 stacks, even more troops, to push onto the Russian front. Now moving very far away from that over to the Iroquois front, where we need to make a counterattack on Upper Louisiana. Got that stack coming up from Central America, and for now they're just going to sit in this fort. That should be within 1 turn's movement range of the settlement, so I can attack it at any time from there, and they'll struggle to attack me. So now I can use this sort of delay to bring these troops over that I recruited for this war to reinforce, just so that we have more of an advantage, since we do know these Native American troops are pretty good against our men. Voorhees will have no such luxury of reinforcement. He's going to have to do something with the forces he already has, and Niagara there with a smaller army inside could be a nice target. The only problem is the full stack of enemies over to the east, so we can't really hold a siege here since the enemy will just appear with all those troops and overwhelm us. We need to fight something right now. The problem, of course, is that fighting against Native American troops is difficult for our line infantry, but what I decided to do is try the auto-resolve and see what happened. And in fact, the auto-resolve gave us a massive victory, and I thought that was probably wrong, but I'm going to be nice and unfair by, instead of refighting something where I think the auto-resolve is wrong, I'll take that result because it benefits me. I know it's a little bit scummy, but we're late in the game here. We need to finish this campaign at some point, and in fact on that topic I do believe we'll be able to finish this campaign in the next episode. As 1726 began, communications problems plagued Amsterdam. In their efforts to establish the location of the deserted army of General Voss, they had overlooked the activities of Lord Uwata and General Cortland. Both of these men had concluded that they were not on the good side of the king, and so made no effort to pursue his doctrine. Instead, they watched and waited to see how the two companies would intervene in Europe. Cortland held out against DIC claims to the territory he was, in the absence of Voss or a link to the central administration, the de facto governor of. Lord Uwata, ignoring the perils of Russian invasion, sulked his way through an eventless war in Scandinavia, but both would soon be awoken into action. So thanks for watching. We'll be achieving victory and seeing what that victory means for the future of the United Provinces next time on Sinews of War.